Awesome. I think we are full house. Let's get started. So, thank you so much, everyone, for joining in. Really appreciate you guys joining in. And we have Calaxy and Hashpost both with us, as well as Polygon. And from Polygon, we are joined by Ashwari. Hey, Ashwari. I would, request all of you guys to just introduce yourself, starting from, let's go the speaker wise. Jesse, we will go with you first. Please introduce yourself.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. This is Jesse Whiteside. I am the Director of Business Development for Hashport, interoperability solution for digital assets, and I help all go-to-market strategies for Hashport.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We have Ashwari from Polygon.
Hey
Ashwari.
everyone, hope everyone is doing good. I am Aishwarya. I'm working with Polygon and leading their operations side in the DeFi space and helping the DAO to take shape in the ecosystem DAO, which is coming ahead with its season one right now. Helping them to take shape as well. So that is what I do here. Thank you.
Awesome. So now we have a lot of people from Calaxy, Solo, Rusty, Cooper. We'll go with Solo first. Solo, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. What's up, everybody? Solo Cisse, Chief Operating Officer and co-founder here at Calaxy. The other co-founder is Spencer Dinwiddie. He's a point guard for the Dallas Mavericks now. So obviously we're super excited for him in his recent, trade. But yeah, on a day-to-day basis, I handle a lot of the different various operational aspects of our business, as well as a lot of the creator onboarding and the talent management that we have. So as an open social marketplace for and by creators, creators are able to create their own personalized creator tokens, as well as their NFTs. And so a lot of that conversation and recruitment comes from my side, as well as Spencer and some of the other members of the team. But we'll keep it short. Previous to that, I was a investment banker, so I have a finance background, but excited to talk to you guys about an integrated, interoperable world in the future of fan engagement.
All right, cool stuff. Rusty, we'll go with you then.
Yes, thank you. Hi, everybody. So my name is Rusty Matlev. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer at Calaxy. I handle all our investor relations as well as strategic partnerships and all things business. Excited to be here. Thanks again.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So we have Cooper, and yeah, we'll go with Cooper. Thank you so much for joining, all of you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for hosting. I'm Cooper. I'm the Chief Technology Officer at Calaxy, overseeing all things tech and engineering, blockchain integrations, etc. Prior to working at Calaxy, I was on the core team at Hedera Hashgraph. So really excited to be up here with Hashport and, talk about the interoperable future.
Awesome. It's good that you mentioned about interoperability. So before we get into the platforms, I'll just throw this one question and we'll go with everybody answering that question. So over the coming months and years, like the interoperability of digital asset between different distributed networks will be, in demand more and more. So what sort of things will the user look for to migrate their assets between the networks freely? And to answer this question, like we'll go with the hash post first.
Yeah, absolutely. I think interoperability is going to become one of those very large buzzwords that's talked about in the space as more and more people enter, and we start to see more mature use cases out of the technology that everyday users are going to pick up and interact with. And specifically to answer that question, already users use interoperability solutions to move tokens from one network to another to take advantage of opportunities in the DeFi space. But I also think over time that's going to be augmented to include, in the case of Calaxy here, social tokens, gaming tokens, pretty much anything you can think of where there might be different user groups that are just simply separated by the network that they reside on. being given the opportunity to take advantage of different platforms, despite them having a start potentially on a different network than their own.
Absolutely. And Aishwarya, what do you think about that?
I think slowly and steadily we all are we are understanding this, that interoperability is going to be one of the biggest things here when we are going towards development and everything. Apart from that, I think multi-chain and the way we are moving ahead, we are looking towards the future where these things would be very much important, because as we saw Web 2, it was very much fragmented. When I talk about fragmented, it basically means that if you are using one application while you want to use another application, let's say for payment wise itself, you have to port, or you cannot do it freely. So interoperability will play a very important role in the future.
Absolutely, absolutely. And like Cooper, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think as more and more blockchains become popular and gain native users themselves, as well as liquidity, the value proposition of interoperability amongst those chains is more and more important to figure out, both from the technology and infrastructure side, as well as the user experience side, and making them accessible. And I still think we're in the early days, but I think we've made a lot of progress.
Absolutely. Solo, would love to know your views as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the lesser talked about items, I guess, with Calaxy being a very forward-facing, consumer-facing project, I think when you think about the use of blockchains generally and the utilities that different chains have, the world is inevitably going to need to be interoperable. I think a barrier to entry for people who aren't as familiar with the asset class, or not the asset class, but like the technology, is the fact that it's something that you have to constantly learn and relearn if everything operates in a silo. And so I think for us, in order to onboard the next the late to late majority type of people, early to late majority type of people, it's going to have to be something that's very easy, fluid, and things like that. And so I think interoperability makes that a lot easier for the transferring of assets and the user experiences to be more continuous, which is something that I think is going to be very key for us as being one of those hubs in the future for a lot of this type of social interaction as well as commerce to take place. So I think that's a lesser talked about item within the space.
Absolutely. Rusty, what do you think about this? And then we'll go to the deep dive into the projects. Rusty, would love to know your views.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited about everything everyone said so far, but in general, kind of this is the tip of the iceberg. I mean, I know that's silly to say to like a group of people that are so in crypto. So I'm sure lots of you guys have been in this for 5-10 years now. But in general, as far as mainstream goes, and as far as connecting to like what does interoperability mean to a regular person, let alone like various chains, I think we have the opportunity to bridge that gap, if you will, and bring this to the masses. And by building this utility and having everything be frictionless is exactly kind of the starting point of how to do all those things. So yeah, obviously a lot more to say, but I'll keep mine short.
All right, all right. So let's get into the platform. And before that, like how the journey started for these projects, like for Calaxy, for Hashpost. Would love to know about that as well. And what inspired you guys to create these projects? Hashpost will go with you first.
Yeah, the project in and of itself was born out of this need to be able to connect, differing networks together. But in the space of interoperability right now, there's a whole host of differing solutions out there, all trying to accomplish somewhat similar goals. One of the things that we saw early on was the need to create functional trust really early on with an interoperability platform for users to ultimately feel comfortable in using the service, and also making it as easy for a user to interact with. So really, looking to emulate kind of what the success that's been seen with the Hedera public network and the governing council that they've used to great success. We emulated that with industry-leading platforms from the DLT space, and effectively wanted to get a very diverse grouping of these industry-leading companies. Hence, having Polygon as one of the most, if not the most, upstanding L2 network running on Ethereum, and Calaxy, a premier social DLT platform that's looking to interact with some of the world's biggest names and connect them in a way to users that really hasn't been done before. Also, just to round it out, we've got BCW Group, which is an amazing strategy and consulting firm that leads the go-to-market strategies for hashport. From a security standpoint, we've got Hex Trust, one of Asia's largest digital asset custodians. We also have a Hedera council member in WorldPay from FIS. They're Fortune 250 company that handles a large proportion of the world's asset transactions globally. And then from a stablecoin side, we've got StableNode, which is a sister company of Maker.
Hello?
I think we may have lost Jesse.
I can see him, but I think he's got muted.
I think his mic might be out.
Jesse, can you hear us? Okay, yeah, I think there might be some connection issues. Well, yeah, by the time Jesse joins back, Solo would love to know how Galaxy got into the play.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll give you guys the somewhat abridged version, but to give some context, right? So Calaxy is really designed to be a one-stop shop of monetization for a creator. So when you think about Web2 universe and the way in which influencers or creators make money, it's upside down in that every single aspect of the ecosystem gets paid before they do. So it's kind of like the cartel. But with Web3, all of us know that the idea of direct to consumer or peer to peer is very easy. That's a whole philosophy behind it. And so we thought that the idea of a social token could be popularized by making it very familiar with different types of features and things that people are already doing within Web2. So you think about the level 2 social media platforms, kind of like Cameo, kind of like Patreon, these creator centric platforms where they're able to curate a top 10% of their fan base and monetize that directly. We're taking all that utility and attaching it to a social token. And so that's something that's going to resonate with people who may not know anything about Web3, social tokens, NFTs, or any of those things, but choose to do so because of the utilities that are afforded by owning these types of assets. So basically, we're making it very easy through an application to on-ramp creators into Web3 by making it as simple as minting an NFT or a social token within a matter of seconds via a mobile application that we've built. There's also going to be a web component to it as well. But then on the other side, creators are going to be able to be, fans are going to be able to be onboarded into Web3 because of the familiar experiences. How we started with this is actually a bit convoluted, but like I said previously, I was an investment banker. I worked in securitization, so things like commercial mortgage-backed securities and that type of stuff. Well, Spencer was actually able to take that concept. He was pretty familiar with the idea of securitization. His dad's worked in real estate, so he knows about CMBS. But he wanted to do the same thing with his MBA contract. So if you guys have been following this space for a little bit, he actually was the first person to tokenize his contract through securitization. Got sued by the NBA for it, but was able to win. But that was kind of the impetus of the idea of monetizing one's individual contractual value. But we realized, later on, there's a lot of different ways in which creators are making money that's a little bit more broad. So to start, that's kind of how we got there. But now we're looking forward to really bringing the next large majority into the space as pertains to social and creators.
All right. So like Cooper, Rusty, do you have guys have anything to add to that?
No, on my end, I think Solo really nailed it. I think, Solo and Spencer have been following the crypto market for a long time. I think Spencer was really ahead of his time when it was, professional athletes and influencers really looking at how can they take crypto and bring it to the entertainment industry and what they're familiar with. And, I think we're really excited to be working with a lot of, really high profile celebrities, athletes, content creators of all kinds. And yeah, so Solo nailed it. Hopefully we can get Jesse and Hashport back on the call at some point.
Yeah, he's here with
A
us.
day is not complete, Cooper, without technical difficulties.
Yeah,
That's
no
how you know
worries.
it's not pre-recorded.
So we'd love to know more about the hashboard. I think we lost you in the middle.
Yeah. I think I cut out around Hex Trust. I was just going through and just talking about the rest of the validators. We also have a Hedera council member, WorldPay from FIS, which is a Fortune 250 company that handles a large portion of the transactions that happen daily around the world. We also have a sister company of MakerDAO in StableNode that supports the DeFi stablecoin ecosystem. From a gaming and NFT perspective, Animoca Brands is one of the most well-known and respected groups out there for DLT gaming. And in terms of technology, there's LimeChain, who is a systems architect and creator for Hashport. And from a foundation standpoint, there's the HBAR Foundation, Hedera's independent organization that looks to expand the Hedera ecosystem. So in these 9 validating members, they're really industry-leading organizations that users can derive some functional trust from in knowing who is safeguarding their digital assets when they're looking to migrate between networks. And just really the ease of use of the platform is also one of the things that was the impetus for enabling users to have the ability to go after opportunities where they see them or take part in different platforms that they might not otherwise have had access to. So that's just to finish up that last question. Sorry about the disconnection.
Yeah, no worries. So cool. Moving on. In the past, migrating digital asset between networks have been relatively slow. Somewhere, somewhat nerve-wracking experience, but over the several years, the speed and functionality of interop solutions have come a long way. What might it take for these solutions to become more broadly adopted? We'll go with
Yeah,
Jesse, please continue.
so sure. I think what we're going to end up seeing is what we've seen with a lot of different technology that is emergent and comes out, is that over time standards begin to be developed and used in a way that users really don't see what's going on behind the scenes. They just know that the service that they're interacting with enables them to do this thing that they're interested in doing. And I think this will be no different. And I think, to your point, as we've seen over time, the transfer times and as we've got different networks emerging, such as Polygon and Hedera and things of that nature, you're seeing the performance capabilities of these networks shine through, and the transfer times are lowering. The error rates are lowering, and it's just finally becoming usable in a way that it really wasn't before, or that people wouldn't really think to use for large or small transfers that they might need done immediately. So, and that's also down to leveraging the Hedera consensus service on Hashport, which we're using. to have the validator members sign transactions, and that helps to speed up the process of the digital asset transfers at the same time too. So just to answer the question, I think it's development of standards that's really going to help with interoperability.
All right, all right. And just to remind our audience that there's a pinned tweet on the top of the Twitter space where you will find all the social media links to the speakers as well as Hashport and Calaxy. So if you want to get into the ecosystem or get further updates on the projects, you must follow these social media channels. With that, I'll move to Calaxy and Cooper, Solo, Rusty. If you have anything to add to this question.
Yeah, Cooper, you want to take a stab?
Yeah, I mean, I would say one of the, things that we commonly face is education on what's a new market and, fundamentally a new technology. I think when you're targeting what Solo said was the early and late majorities, kind of mainstream audiences, educating people on Bitcoin is a difficult problem, let alone educating them on the exciting world of decentralized finance and NFTs and smart contracts and things that are going on. And when you're involving multi-chain solutions, the level of complexity is not just twice, but almost exponential, where everyone has different standards, to Jesse's point. And so being able to actually educate mainstream audiences and user bases is super important. And I think once those people are educated on the options and why they'd want to use options and why they'd want to bridge assets between Hedera and Polygon and Hedera and Ethereum and other networks potentially, they can see obviously some of the core value propositions of Polygon, fast settlement times, low fees, pretty high availability and reliability. And so I think you really have to start, at least in our case, with being a consumer facing application, that initial education, and then the value propositions kind of become clear, and being able to, stake and lend your Calaxy tokens or trade Hedera based NFTs on Ethereum marketplaces is, super exciting. And I'm sure we'll talk more about that throughout this Twitter spaces.
Yeah, I'd say the one thing I would also add on top of that too is, like Cooper mentioned, that was very spot on, especially for that early majority group of people. But I think a lot of our company philosophy is really kind of in the lines of, at the end of the day, like the best forms of technology as a society that we've ever, came across are the ones that like created an ease of convenience. And so I think for the biggest thing we're trying to build is like, user experience is super important. Like we actually have a chief design officer on our team and our management team, whose job is, purely meant to demystify Web3 and all of these types of things to make it super appealing and easy for people like an Ezekiel Elliott or people like a Tiana Taylor or people like The Bachelor, etc. People that we are, know for a fact are very interested in the space. But, we want to make that onboarding or on-ramp into that space as easy as possible. At the end of the day, there's a lot of smart people in this room, probably a ton of people smarter than I am. A lot of people who are probably engineers. They probably know exactly how a car works. But for the average person who is not an engineer and doesn't know how a car works, they're very easily able to get in the car, turn the key, turn the car on, and drive. They don't know what's going on or anything like that happens underneath the service. But for the most part, they're educated enough to kind of get around and understand and use the technology. And the best forms of technologies have always been somewhat like that.
Awesome. Absolutely. So I think you guys have had a fair share of, the crypto journey so far. So in the journey so far, like, what do you think were some of the challenges that you faced in terms of educating users, building community, or anything that you faced? And with that, like, what do you guys have achieved so far? Or what do you consider some of your biggest achievements? We'll go with Jesse. Jesse.
Yeah, I think anytime you try, and to Cooper's point, anytime you try and get users to engage and interact with a new platform or service, it can be a bit challenging at first. People do have their sort of comfort zones, and to that point, the space it can be a bit of the Wild West, and in particular, up until recently, interoperability solutions in particular, it was sort of something where you put your transaction through and you then sat there, painstakingly, hoping beyond hope that they would come through. And I think we've come a long way in that, and I think the proof is in the pudding, essentially, and having users try the platform out and carry out these transactions and see that they really can move their assets between networks, has been one of the biggest challenges so far. And once that awareness is out there of the ease for them to do that, I think that's going to be huge, for not only our platform, but for their confidence in being able to go out and capture opportunities as they arise, and they might not necessarily need to be on the network that they reside on, essentially.
Absolutely. Jesse, sorry, Solo, Cooper, Rusty, would love to know your, challenges as well as achievements as well.
Yeah, I would say the number one challenge in this space, in any new space, is that there's always going to be met with a certain amount of, scrutiny. And so I think to the average person, like, the average person, not people that are even in this room, but the average person, there are some reservations as pertains to, upping and leaving the world that they knew of for the last, 2.5 decades or whatever the case it is. So I think the idea of Web3 as a concept seems really cool, but it also seems like, at some point in time, something that people are still wanting to get comfortable with fully. And so I think the biggest challenge in that we felt with that is really being able to explain the merits of it in a way that could be understood by that target demographic, right? Like, we could all sit here and talk about how great it is that we have an interoperable world, how amazing DeFi is, how empowering it really is to the end person or individual, just through the use of blockchain technology. But it's got to make sense to the people who don't really think about the world in that way. And so I think for us, finding that unique value proposition, one helps create a business case and like why we need to exist, but then also helps with the idea of us being able to kind of really onboard these creators in there. And so I think that's probably the biggest challenge that we continually face. And then the pseudonymous nature of the asset class. There's every now and then you see people, being able to take advantage of that and potentially rug pull people and things like that. So like that's all the people see, because people that are resistant, they see that and they hold on to it, and that's the narrative that's in their minds. And so I'd say the biggest achievement, is honestly came from our biggest conflict, which is really on a day-to-day basis being able to kind of circumvent that. And it gets easier and easier as more validation comes into space, more people are talking about it, it's more public. But I'd say, our biggest achievements are, being able to have a roster of the creators that we have, having over 150, creators or content creators, celebrities, some really known people, jumping into the space and joining this journey with us. As a young founding team is probably the biggest achievement that we've ever had as a company. But I know Rusty might want to chime in on this.
Yeah, thanks, Solo. Yeah, so I mean, I fully echo and agree with everything Solo just said. He's more commenting on the achievement aspect. Obviously, we're in the early days of our company's life and all that. So, being in the stage that we're in, we hope that there's going to be obviously many, many achievements in the future. So far, it's been a lot of internal milestones and development milestones and all that kind of good stuff. So we're getting there. In terms of the challenges around community and building, and building that up. We have a pretty unique proposition in terms of essentially being a multi-sided marketplace. Solo spoke to some of the challenges that we face, kind of educating and getting, onboarding creators, and that's still there. And he's right. There's a natural, not even hesitation, but there's definitely curiosity, which I'll kind of more highlight the positive side. There's always curiosity. People hear whatever NFTs might be, right? People are hearing about people making lots of money and all that kind of stuff, but what does it actually mean? And more importantly, how do I get involved is kind of a lot of the thoughts. And Solo and team have been doing a great job of really, simplifying and illustrating what that means and how easy it is to actually use and come on, especially via Calaxy. And then same goes for the other side of the community, the fans of the creators, right? The users. While again, we definitely want to build up our own brand and get people to know what Calaxy is. Our early strategy is very much about bringing the communities of the creators that we have on board, the 150, 200 creators that we have so far, their organic reach on social media is pushing 200 million followers, collectively. So it's when you think about that number, there's a ton of potential there. It's really exciting, but again, the challenge becomes, how do you get their community over to to the platform and working with even using legacy and for distribution and all that stuff. So it is an exciting challenge that we're just at the beginning of, and we can't wait, and we're excited to have tools and bridges like hashport and supporters like you guys to to really make this work and bring this to the masses.
Absolutely. Awesome. So the next question would be, like, there are numerous interoperability solution being worked on at present. How do you think the space as a whole will tackle the issue of fragmentation? We'll go with Jesse. Yes.
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and one of the things that we've noticed and sort of has developed out of Hashport so far is this idea that literally in an entire platform could decide to pick up and move their non-circulating supply to another network, and effectively take advantage of the performance capabilities of that network. So I think the biggest ramification of new interoperability solutions that are, that have this heightened level of trust and functionality are giving developers as well the ability to either migrate their platforms to a different network, or even branch out and have a presence on multiple networks simultaneously, with their token, but that is still tied and interchangeable with their original or existing token, which significantly over time will reduce fragmentation for developers that use hashport to migrate their assets between networks, because they're all interlinked at that point once using the platform to create representative versions on these new networks. Particularly with hashport, going between Hedera and Polygon, for instance, the ability for dApps that are created on Hedera and Polygon to interact with one another and be able to leverage users on either side, I think is going to be very big over time for both platforms.
Absolutely. Solo, Cooper, Rusty, what do you think about that?
Yeah, from my perspective, I see the industry's fragmentation being addressed in multiple kind of verticals. 2017, 2018, you saw people deal with Ethereum scaling problems, and people were really starting to think about higher throughput solutions or ways to basically get more data on chain for Ethereum. And you saw the rise of native multi-chain based blockchains, right? You saw Polkadot, you saw Cosmos, you saw people integrating layer one protocols that kind of tackle this issue of fragmentation at a different abstraction. And then that's also, why you saw Polygon be so successful as being another kind of pronged solution to the scalability failures of Ethereum. But beyond just kind of layer one, I think that you have people and protocols like hashport and wormhole that are kind of solving this by building on top of various layer ones and solving it at kind of a different perspective or abstraction level. And there's trade-offs between both of those, as well as different security and trust assumptions and user experience requirements that are different ways to kind of solve the problem of fragmentation. And I think that you see this interestingly being addressed with different types of smart contract based ecosystems deploying across multi-chains as well. And some people are trying to tackle fragmentation as let's deploy Yearn Finance or SushiSwap to a bunch of different chains, and at that point you're basically just going to try to solve a liquidity problem. So I think the space as a whole is really trying to tackle the problem from 3 or 4 different areas, and I think that we're actually kind of yet to see which of those really wins out in terms of creating a cohesive ecosystem, whether it's something like Polkadot really taking off and having a bunch of parachains natively connected to it, or if it's a hashport or wormhole like solution that's kind of operating as a layer 2. I think the one that's likely to win out is the right part of the sliding scale between security assumptions and usability. So, it's been impressive to see how far the industry's came in the past 3 or 4 years when none of these things really existed.
All right, all right. Solo Rusty, do you have anything to add to that?
I think Cooper, as he always does, did a great job covering everything. So I'm good. Rusty, anything on your side?
Yeah, exactly what I was going to say. Thank you. Good job, Cooper.
Yeah, pretty solid.
Chinmay might be on mute.
Oh, sorry, sorry about that.
All
So,
good.
so what might be some of the recent developments around your projects, and what are some of the short-term milestones that you guys are focused on? Starting with Jesse.
Yeah, I think really the awareness of the platform and what users and developers and dApps can do with it is of utmost importance to us. Over time, obviously, adding new functionality and features to enable different use cases and user groups to interact with Hashport. By adding new networks, new wallets, new assets to the platform. Those are all things that we're very focused on, and users can expect to see over time.
Got it. Got it. What about Calaxy? Solo, Cooper, Rusty.
Yeah, Calaxy is excited to have our mobile application in the iOS App Store. Now it's available for early access, and we have consistent onboarding efforts, getting more and more users in there as we're testing it out and growing. We're also excited to be working on a full-featured web application so that users can onboard more seamlessly and use different types of wallet management solutions and better ways to leverage interoperability with things like hashport. In addition to that, we're also getting ready to launch, at some point this year. Hopefully, Calaxy tokens will be available, and you'll be able to see them actually being used to go over this bridge between Hedera and Hashport. Calaxy tokens are a native protocol token, and I highly recommend people go check out our white paper at calaxy.com/whitepaper to learn a little bit more about it. And I think that you'll see us hopefully doing a lot more cool stuff with Polygon and different interoperability solutions. We're building out a lot of DAO infrastructure and tooling on Hedera as well. So if anyone's listening to this isn't interested in cross-chain or multi-chain DAOs, or is building a Hedera native DAO, we'd love to talk to you and hopefully help build some of these kind of primitives together.
Yeah, I would say on our side, I think we're just continuing to, really be excited about I think the most important thing for us is being a creator-centric platform, is that creators create. And so like on the less techy, super dense answer, on the kind of glitz and glamour and the fun part of the job, because Cooper does all the work here. But in all seriousness, I think when you think about creators and what they do is they create. And so I think it's going to be very exciting to give people this technology and let them, really do what, makes sense with it, to the way that makes the most sense for their audiences and stuff like that, right? So like some of the greatest uses of blockchain, we don't even know yet. because the space is continually evolving and people are continuing to be creative and innovate in the space. And so I think similarly with the concept of NFTs, social tokens, and how creators are going to be able to monetize and build communities and the experiences they'll be able to offer, we're super keenly excited for what that reality looks like moving forward. And so like we have conversations, directly with creators. A lot of them are, good friends or related, very close to us. Just given that the founding team is who it is, right? Since there's an NBA player, I happen to know a lot of creators and celebrities as well. But even that within itself has gave us some idea. But we're super excited to see, when we kind of get out there and get live and people start using the platform for what makes sense for them. So we're excited for that innovation to come too.
All right, awesome. So, just to remind our audience that there would be a similar kind of reward for a single user with who's present on the space today. So, like guys, like we do this reward for every space where we choose one lucky winner who's listening to this space. Will get the winner at the end. But yeah, if you want to claim your reward. Just check out the pinned tweet on the top. Follow the social media channels for Calaxy and Hashport. And yeah, we'll announce the winner at the end. Awesome. With that, uh, how will the interoperability change the DLT landscape in the coming years for developers and for the users?
Yeah, I think I've touched on that briefly in the last question, actually. But the ability for developers and dApps to be able to expand past the network that they're originally conceived on, I think is going to be a big thing. And the ability for users to quickly and seamlessly be able to take advantage of different opportunities on other networks, such as different liquidity pools and DeFi applications. I think is going to be big. That's something that's currently happening right now with HBAR holders on Hedera being able to leverage liquidity pools that are currently reside on QuickSwap. And I think over time that ability for users to maintain control of an underlying asset that they have that they may not necessarily want to part with, but at the same time still be able to participate just like everyone else in these platforms and dApps is going to be big. So yeah, I just think over time, really what's going to happen is in this space is growing to Solo's point. The space is growing faster than any other industry in the history of humankind, essentially. And we're conducting more social experiments daily than ever have been before. So I think that our human ingenuity and curiosity and combined with all of these tests that we're running, we're gonna see more amazing dApps emerge and powerful tools like Calaxy with what they're coming to market with, and also with Polygon being able to really solve some of the major problems that we see with Ethereum currently as it stands. I think we're just users are over the coming years, much in the same way with what happened with the internet. Users are going to be in for a treat over time as a lot of the barriers to entry and pain points are sort of smoothed away, and they're just left with great experiences that leverage this new technology and power. So super exciting time, and I can't wait to see what develops out of it.
Awesome. Cooper, Solo, Rusty, what do you guys think? The landscape would be like in the coming years.
I would say to start, well, first, it's always hard going after Jesse. He has great answers. So I feel like I've been in the toughest position the entire time. But I would say for him that the most important thing for us really coming forward, I think, is going to be the next, adoption of the ease of use and how, how pervasive it will really be. I think is the biggest exciting point for me. Like, I think right now the best analogy I could use for it is like, when you think about blockchain, or if I go out and I'm at, a bar, I'm out in general, people see me, they're like, oh, you're a crypto guy or you're a blockchain guy. I'd love for it to be the case that in the next, 5 years or whatever, you're not just a blockchain guy, you're just a guy, right? Like that, you don't say you're an internet guy. We're all internet people because this is how we use, this is how we do everyday life. And so I think in the future, what we're going to see is a lot less of that. And it's going to be something that just, like, Rusty mentions all the time, is that it runs under the hood. It's just the way in which we do things. And, through what Jesse said and what Cooper said is the idea of like on-ramping that early to late majority of people is going to come from the user experiences being very well divined and sophisticated and familiar to the world in which that people come from. And so I think, not to go around in circles, but I think the most important thing, or the biggest exciting thing for me, I guess, in the space and where I think it's going, is like we're going to move to a world where that is the case. I'm very, very sure of that. Versus the current world right now, where we're at this kind of point of inflection where there's people that are fully bought into it, and then there's people that are trying to learn more about it. There's people who are like, I don't know about it, but I think over time that reversion will happen, and no longer will it be the case that I'm just a blockchain guy that won't stop talking.
On the developer side of things, I think, having native or significant interoperability enables you really to pick a layer one that meets your use case requirements. And so, for us, we're directly building on Hedera. They have really high fees, or really low fees and very stable fees, high transaction speeds, et cetera. But I would say that their smart contract ecosystem and DeFi ecosystem isn't anywhere near as built out as Polygons or Ethereum's. And so for us, being able to natively build our use case on the layer one, that makes a lot of sense, but also get the kind of best of both worlds with being able to go over hashport, use the bridge, and get access to those other ecosystems that have different use case trade-offs or security trade-offs or transaction fees, and basically be able to leverage the value proposition of each layer one directly is hugely valuable for developers. I think part of me hopes that having deep interoperability and kind of cross-chain liquidity in a multi-chain future hopefully will reduce the significant amount of tribalism that we currently have to all deal with in the industry, and we can really realize that a rising tide lifts all boats.
Awesome. So, what are you guys planning for the future? Let's say in after 1 year. So, what should the community look out for, and what can we expect from you guys in the future?
Let me jump in here to go first, if you guys don't mind. So yeah, it's a great question and something that we think about all the time. Obviously, everyone on this call, I'm sure, is heads down in their own project and thinking about the moment and today. But as we look out to the future, what I'm most excited about is just looking at the use cases and the business cases developed by the creatives, by the creators themselves. Solo always likes to say, creators are creative, and it's a mantra that like sounds simple enough, but we find ourselves always, especially in these early days, trying to come up with use cases and come up with creative, campaigns and strategies to do like various things, right? But realistically, just handing the keys over to the creators and letting them run their own show, because that's what they do, right? They're the innovators here, and so kind of getting out of the way a little bit and letting them run, and when we look back at that, just kind of seeing that, like right now, I'm excited from the standpoint of the profile of our creators is really dynamic, right? We don't just have like athletes or musicians or like kind of one category. We have quite a diverse set of creators that I think fits into like, we have esports players, we've got, a chef, we have comedians, we have podcasters, we've got beauty and fitness models, we got like TikTokers and Instagram, celebrities and all those kinds of categories. And it's not a one size fits all, right? And I think, we have this custom feature where creators can sort of create, again, their own use cases. And so, looking at like a chef who wants to run, a day, like a daily video or weekly show or whatever it might be, right? Corporate events. And so again, I'm really excited to take a step back, get out of the way, and look back to see what the creators come up with, and and how their communities really engage with that, because I think this is going to be the most authentic and direct way to engage with your creator of choice.
All right, Jesse, would love to know your views. But before we do that, I would just like to remind our audience that there are a few rewards for the space, and we'll announce them at the end. You can follow the social media channels for Calaxy and Hashport. And yeah, would love to know, Jesse, what Hashport's future look like.
Yeah, I really think it's primarily lies in helping to break down barriers and provide more of a ease of use for whomever is looking to plug into the service to be able to do what they'd like to do. So that entails adding new features and functionality to allow individual users right up to enterprises to be able to create new use cases or even business logic that enables what they're looking to accomplish for their target audience. So in previously I talked about adding new assets, wallets, networks, tokens. All of those things are on the table, but really it's about the overall experience, I think, and the ability for a user to simply, without even having ever interacted with the platform before, be able to accomplish exactly what they're looking for in the shortest amount of time with the least hurdles possible is what we're looking to provide over time. And I think we're well on our way to doing that, and I'm just definitely excited to see all of the interesting use cases that come out of harnessing the power of interoperability via hashboard.
All right, awesome. So I just have one last question for you guys, which is like, do you think that the industry would arrive at a tolerable level of interoperability or decentralization in an organic way? Like, this is, such a great question.
Yeah, I think ultimately what's happened with the internet is going to happen with distributed ledgers, in the sense that you're not really going, as a user or even an institution, you're not necessarily going to know all of what's going into offering the solutions that you see coming across your screen. That said, DLT provides a very interesting quirk on that, in that if you really did want to know, you're actually able to go under the hood and really see how everything is working ultimately, if you understand that. So for those of us out there, or some of us that want that granular detail, that's going to be there. Whereas before, sort of with Web 2.0, you could sort of do that, but it was kind of abstracted away from you, in the sense that you had centralized servers of these larger organizations, whereas everyone can take part in Web 3.0 and effectively be able to also see the granular details that they might want to see. And I think that's really going to be empowering for everyone in the space, and make it very democratic in using the tools over time. That's my hope anyway.
All right, Cooper, Solo, Rusty, what do you guys think?
Yeah, on our end, at least from the technology side of things, I think a tolerable level of interoperability and decentralization is an interesting question. When you're looking at the ecosystem, I think that users have a variety of choice between blockchains themselves, and can kind of choose the ones who have security or decentralization assumptions that meet whatever they're looking to do, whether that's using Ethereum natively, whether that's using Polygon as a scaling solution, whether that's choosing to use Hedera and effectively their governing council of Fortune 100 or Fortune 500 companies. I think that we're reaching the tolerable levels of decentralization when it comes to layer ones, but I think you see with the latest hack of Wormhole, $300 million gone from a validator-based bridge, I think that we're still working on tolerable levels of interoperability that still preserve those decentralization requirements. And I think hashport's, a really great start where they not only leverage, smart contract-based solutions, but also do things like use Hedera's consensus service to track messages and votes among the validator set and kind of have a provable history over time of communication in its network. So if it happens organically, I would be very impressed and surprised. I think, when interoperability and specifically bridges get really successful, there's a huge amount of liquidity sitting on it, and there's a huge amount of user base. And at that point, you start questioning, should the bridge be decentralized? Is it too centralized because there's so much liquidity flowing over it? And what does that actually mean? So really tough, but interesting question. I'm sure that we'll, as an industry, unpack over the coming years.
Absolutely. And while we are, just at the corner, do you guys have any message for our community? Would love to hear it. Jesse?
Yeah, we're always interested in hearing from our community and hearing ideas and features that you might be interested in. So I would say reach out to us on our social channels and don't be shy. We'd love to hear from everyone.
Yeah, I guess on our side, the one thing I would say is that, obviously, like we mentioned, we were able to put the application in the App Store for, early access, but would love to, make sure we plug the waitlist. So on Calaxy.com, you can sign up for early access, as well as follow the project on various social channels. So we're available at Calaxy app on Twitter, Instagram, I think TikTok even as well. But yeah, obviously super excited about the future and being able to on-ramp, the next hopefully billion users into Web3. But all seriousness, super excited about the future. And, thank you guys for having us.
All right. So I think with this, we also have the winner for this space, who is Andres. Andres, we have made a tweet, and you should get your NFT very soon. So yeah, thank you so much, guys, for participating. If Cooper, Rusty, do you guys have any last words we want to want to share with our community?
I would say thank you everyone for listening. We're excited to continue working with Hashport and Polygon, and I'm sure this isn't the last time you'll hear from us. So thanks everyone for their time.
Absolutely. All right.
See you guys.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys, for joining, and have a great day. We'll see you in the next space. Thank you so much, guys.
Thanks for hosting
Thank
us.
you
Have a great
very
day. Have a great night. Bye-bye.
Take care.